And welcome, everyone, to our Bleacher Report AP Top 25 reaction. I'm Andy Katz from NCAA.com, Bleacher, TNT, March Madness, MBB, wearing many hats. All right. Before we break down this poll individually, I am going to address what I see. I've seen others that have posted their top 25s. It is staring me at the face in this top 25. And I wrote about this in my weekly word on NCAA.com. And that is when you lose really badly, Illinois loses to Duke by 43. UConn gets blown out by St. John's. Kansas got obliterated at BYU. And here's the one, Purdue. Purdue lost 4 in a row. I don't see how they can be ranked. How do you stay in a poll when you lose 4 games in a row? This is not about seeding. We say this every week. It gets old and people don't listen. But I don't understand how Purdue, and we see on there, yes, look at their notable wins. Of course, they've got tons of quad one wins. Alabama, Ole Miss, that was in San Diego. Alabama was in Indianapolis. They beat Maryland. They beat Rutgers, Oregon, Michigan, Indiana the first time. All good for the NCAA tournament. But how can they be ranked when they lose 4 in a row? If any other school, not in the Big Ten, maybe the ACC or SEC, loses 4 in a row, they're not sniffing the top 25. I don't care what they did before. So that's my problem here with some of my colleagues, and I see it in the AP, still voting for Purdue. I didn't, because you lose 4 in a row. And by the way, it could be 5 because they're playing UCLA next week or this week, all blurring together. So let's dive into what we got here. And I agree with a lot of what we're seeing in front of me. And we'll get to my Power 37 here momentarily. Auburn, Janai Broome had a great week, 16-31. They're the number 1 team in the country. They avenged that home loss to Florida. They're playing great. No problem. They're the number 1 team. I totally agree with this. In my poll, I flipped Florida and Duke this week. I see Duke 2, Florida 3. There's no way, even though Florida didn't lose, okay? If you watch what Duke did to Illinois Saturday night at the Garden, I was there. That was as impressive a win as we have seen this season. They absolutely dismantled Illinois. Illinois couldn't shoot threes. Horrible percentage. They were shooting like 8%. Great depth on display for Duke. It wasn't just Cooper Flagg by any means. Their defense was superior. I really believe there is a separation right now. It's Auburn and Duke. They're on one level. They played earlier this season in Cameron. Duke won. I think those are the 2 best teams in the country. Now, Florida, Houston, maybe Tennessee, Alabama, and maybe St. John's would have something to say about it. But if we get an Auburn-Duke final in San Antonio, we'll be treated to something special, because we also have 2 teams that have 1 and 1A, and they could either week, whoever wins National Player of the Year, if it's Broome or Flagg, I got no problem. In fact, I will not be shocked if we see one player win some awards and another. Because remember, there are multiple National Player of the Year awards. There isn't just one Heisman. You've got the Naismith Award. You've got the Wooden Award. You've got the Oscar Robertson Award. You've got AP, and you've got the Rupp. So that's 5 Player of the Year awards, okay? I won't be shocked if one wins 2, one wins 3, 4 1. Won't be surprised at all. They're both deserving right now. So Florida, no problem as a 3. Houston, they're clearing the field in the Big 12. Big game coming up against Texas Tech on Monday night, but they got a 3-game lead right now. So Kelvin Sampson's a Hall of Famer. Tremendous job what he's done. I thought Matt Norlander had some good insight on CBS Sports with a good piece on that. Did a great job. And Kelvin, again, has turned the Cougars into a title contender. Tennessee had a couple weird results in the SEC, but that's okay. Bottom line is they're one of the best teams in the country. Their defense is locking teams up, as you see. And then there's Alabama. So right there, that's 6. Those are your 6 teams competing for the 4 number 1 seeds. My gut is Auburn and Duke, and we'll get 2 of them. That's not a gut. That's just a given, I think. And then the other 2 are up for grabs. I think it's going to for sure be 1 SEC team. It might be 2. So Florida's got a little bit of a lead right now over Tennessee, and then Alabama, I think. And then if Houston clears it and wins the Big 12 and wins the Big 12 tournament, it's going to be hard not to give Houston one of those 4 number 1 seeds. And by the way, you could have Houston in San Antonio. Pretty good. St. John's at 7. No problem there. Rick Pitino, tremendous job he's doing with the Red Storm. I saw them on Sunday at the Garden. The atmosphere was so great. I love it. Packed house at the Garden. I think it's the best venue in college basketball when it is packed. And I've been fortunate for the most part to go when it's packed, whether that's Duke, whether that's St. John's, whether that's Kentucky, Carolina, UConn. They can all pack it in a given year. So great atmosphere. Rick Pitino walks out to Empire State of Mind, by Jay-Z and Alicia Keys. It was great, great theater. Place was rocking. By the way, kind of a different crowd. Saturday night, you had more of a wine and cheese Duke crowd, packed. Sunday, St. John's, a little grittier, people yelling stuff during the national anthem. So a little different atmosphere, but both great. And then at 8, Michigan State. Michigan State now atop the Big Ten after beating Purdue and Michigan. Purdue at home, Michigan on the road. Jace Richardson, who we'll talk about in a moment, has emerged as one of the better freshmen in the country. So the Spartans are rolling. I have a big game this week, which I'll talk about here in a moment, Michigan State's next game. Then you got Iowa State and Texas Tech, rounding out the top 10. And Iowa State, Texas Tech, Houston, and Arizona, you see at 22. Those are the 4 best teams in the Big 12 right now, not Kansas. The 4 best teams are Houston, Iowa State, Texas Tech, and Arizona. And with BYU now moving up there, great to see BYU at 25. BYU had a phenomenal week. Kevin Young coming over from the Phoenix Suns. Forget about AJ DeBansa. That's next year's news. This year, Richie Saunders is leading them to the NCAA tournament. Blow out Kansas at home and win in a crazy ending at Arizona late. Caleb Love puts them up, Arizona. Saunders comes back. Kind of a little bit of a questionable call, but he gets it. Gets to the free throw line, makes a couple free throws, and BYU wins. Second grouping here, Wisconsin, really tough loss to Oregon. Ended up losing in overtime, blew a 17-point lead. I still think the Badgers are really good, and Tanjay's potential all-Big Ten first team. But that was a tough loss. A&M, a little bit of a shaky week, but the SEC is going to do that to you. Clemson's rolling right now. Clemson and Louisville, 13-19, tied for second behind Duke. They're both going to comfortably be in the NCAA tournament. The question is the ACC more than a 3-bid league? I mean, Wake lost. Carolina is now winning, but they're winning against the bottom. Pitt's played itself out. I think SMU and Stanford have played its way out. So really it's coming down to Wake and Carolina. Can they both win enough to get in the back part of the bracket? Missouri had a great win earlier in the week at home against Alabama. Then they lost at Arkansas. Dennis Gates, I think, is a national Coach of the Year candidate. Could be, if it weren't for Bruce Pearl, he'd be SEC Coach of the Year, and he still may get it. But he and Todd Golden obviously doing a great job. I mean, it's really hard to get SEC Coach of the Year when there's so many top, teams in the SEC. Michigan losing at home to Michigan State. That's why they're at 15. Maryland at 16. I got Maryland higher. I got Maryland top 10 right now. Maryland is rolling. I think they've won 4 in a row. Derek Queen is not just one of the best freshmen in the country. He's one of the best players in the country. Their starting 5 is as good as any starting 5 on the screen. No bench, but hey, the 5 can play. Kentucky having a hard time winning on the road, which is understandable in the SEC, and they just have not been healthy. It's a shame because when healthy, we've seen what Kentucky can do earlier in the season. They can beat anybody. Memphis lost last weekend, I think it was to Wichita State. But then, and it's hard in the American. They are the Super Bowl for every team. Every team needs to try to beat Memphis to improve their resume. 22-5, they're solidly in the tournament. And I think once they get in the tournament away from the American, fresh faces, they should do well. Talked about Louisville. Talked about Purdue. Purdue shouldn't be in there. Get Purdue out. I'm sorry. 4 in a row, you're out. Marquette at 21. Again, I don't think they should be ranked. Marquette has been struggling mightily. I mean, their one win of late is DePaul. Got kind of handled by Villanova. They shouldn't be in. Arizona, maybe it should be a little higher. St. Mary's swept Gonzaga. The Gales won the WCC. What a year for Randy Bennett. Loses Aiden Mahaney to UConn, and that was supposed to be a real body blow. Didn't matter. Look what St. Mary's has done. Wins the WCC. Randy Bennett, one of the best coaches nobody talks about. He's a National Coach of the Year candidate. Mississippi State split the week, and again, look how loaded the SEC is. It's a tough loss to Oklahoma. It's a huge win for Oklahoma, by the way, to beat Mississippi State. Mississippi State got a sweep of their rival Ole Miss, and there's BYU. All right, so before we get to our awards, I want to go over my 37. So I have Auburn, Duke, Florida, Houston, St. John's, Alabama as my 6. Again, those are the 6 best teams in the country right now. Texas Tech, Maryland, Michigan State, Iowa State, Tennessee. Maryland, Michigan State, I'll be there Wednesday. They're the 2 best teams of the Big Ten. May not be record-wise for Maryland, but they are playing the best in the Big Ten. I put BYU at 12, not 25, 12. What a week. Blowing out Kansas and winning at Arizona. Clemson, A&M, Wisconsin, I dropped 16. Michigan, 17. Memphis, 18. Louisville, 19. Missouri, 20. St. Mary's at 21. I know Creighton lost a couple, but I still kept Creighton in at 22. Then Kentucky, then Mississippi State. Then UCLA at 25. Oregon at 26. Huge week for Oregon. Won at Iowa. I was there last Wednesday. Comeback win at Wisconsin on Saturday. New Mexico did lose at Boise State. It's okay. It's a road game. They're still atop the Mountain West. Ole Miss, Arkansas, Cal getting it done with that win over Missouri. Marquette, I dropped all the way to 30. Vanderbilt, they split their week. Utah State, game behind New Mexico. They got a big game coming up against San Diego State. Boise State beat San Diego State and New Mexico. Could have made them team of the week. VCU beats George Mason. Drake, Bennett Sturts, unbelievable, from Northwest Missouri State, follows Ben McCollum, hits another buzzer beater, beat Northern Iowa. So Drake now atop the valley. UC San Diego, the Tritons, eligible for the NCAA tournament. They're atop the Big West. They're having a phenomenal season. And James Jones again at Yale. Got to give them some love. The Bulldogs, undefeated in the Ivy. They lose Danny Wolf to Michigan, their best player, and they're undefeated in the Ivy. Let's go to our national team of the week. I've mentioned them many times here. What an outstanding week. Great job done by Kevin Young, BYU, so deserving by knocking off Kansas and winning at Arizona, sending a strong message to the Big 12. We are here to stay. And by the way, Kansas and Kansas State got swept in the state of Utah. I covered that league when it was the WAC way back, and it used to be nobody swept BYU and Utah. They were both elite programs out west, very difficult road trip, and it could be again. Already claimed the Sunflower State top two teams. Player of the week, Jace Richardson. Jason Richardson's son. Jace Richardson, he had a normal sort of growth as a freshman. Early in the season, kind of trying to find his way. All the hype was for other guys in the league, whether it was Casper Siakachonis, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, even Derek Queen, maybe John Mobley. And Richardson has sort of waited his time, and here he is, bam. I mean, it's his team now as a freshman. He's taken the mantle. He had 21 in that win over Michigan, 12 against Purdue, 6 boards against Michigan. And that was a comeback win in the second half against Michigan. So Jace Richardson, my national player of the week from Michigan State. The top 10 games to watch this week. So I'm going to be there Wednesday. It's on Big Ten Network. Michigan State, Maryland. To me, it's a top 10 game. To AP, it's a top 20 game. And I really think Maryland is the only team that can catch Michigan State in the Big Ten. Michigan State still has to play Wisconsin at home and then go to, they get Wisconsin at home and Michigan at home. Yes, home games, but still tough games. So if Michigan State wins at Maryland, I think they win the Big Ten. If Maryland wins, they just need help for Michigan State to lose one more game, which could happen. And then Maryland wins out, which could happen. So Maryland getting a share of the Big Ten title is still plausible if they can win Wednesday. This game Monday night, Houston at Texas Tech, that is really the only chance of anyone else winning the Big 12. If Houston wins this game on the road, it's over. They win the Big 12. If Texas Tech wins, they're still going to need help, but at least there's like a chance. I see already people were squawking to me that I had Alabama, Tennessee fourth and should have been higher. Alabama just got kind of handled at Missouri. I think the Auburn-Kentucky game, I just think the atmosphere at Rupp's going to be crazy for the number one team in the country. And I just think it's going to be a better overall game. They're both great games. I mean, everyone gets hung up on, well, this is fourth and third. And then they're both great games. My top 10 games every week has been dominated by SEC games. So I am trying to spread the wealth a little bit, but they're both great games. And then back to the Big 12, we've got Arizona, Iowa State. It was a crazy game the first time in Tucson. Caleb Love hit the Caitlin Steph kind of shot. So that'll be a great one. Then back to the SEC, A&M, Florida. Great guard play there, Clayton and Taylor. Then Texas Tech, Kansas. Kansas needs that game more than Texas Tech. Then you got UCLA, Purdue on Friday. UCLA won at Indiana, so they could sweep the state of Indiana on a Friday night. Then New Mexico, San Diego State. This is after the Lobos lost at Boise. They already won at Utah State. San Diego State has lost at home to Utah State. Like, San Diego State needs this game. If New Mexico wins this game, they got a great shot to win the Mountain West outright. And then another Mountain West game right below that, Utah State, Boise State. So Boise State, which is on the outside looking into the tournament. I mean, right now, I think New Mexico and Utah State are safe to get in. And Boise and San Diego State need some good wins, still need some good wins. Last year they got 6. I think their high now is 4. They may only get 2 Mountain West. So we'll see. But those 2 games, I think, will have a say in what occurs. Look, look, there's great games this whole week. And I just want to go back to that point about it's not, we always have to remember that it is about rankings and seedings are different things. So Purdue, Illinois, UConn, Kansas, those four, I didn't rank them. They're all going to be in the NCAA tournament. And Purdue will be the highest of those four. But after what happened this past week, Purdue 4 in a row. Kansas, blown out by BYU. Illinois, blown out by Duke. UConn, blown out by St. John's. They're not top 25 teams right now in the rankings. So we've got 2 more weeks, and then it's all about the seedings in the tournament, and we can quiet down about all that. I like the engagement, but that's my soapbox. I believe in it, and anyway. So some housekeeping things. Check out my feed at The Andy Katz or The Real Andy Katz. The Real Andy Katz on Instagram, The Andy Katz on X. Got a great championship chat. Tony Bennett, Jay Wright, Roy Williams. I was just standing there, basically, or in the box. But all week I'm running clips from that chat. Full chat next week. I've still got my Meet the Men's Basketball Selection Committee profiles that'll be posted. We'll have our bracket on Tuesday. I'll be at Michigan State, Maryland Wednesday. So much content. Also, go to On Location. I was in San Antonio last week. You go to On Location, and it's NCAA/VIP. And you can check out the hospitality packages for the Final Four. It's powered by On Location. San Antonio, fan experience. I'll be there with Sean Elliott, among others. Great food, music, entertainment on Saturday before the national semifinals, and then on Monday before the championship game. So check that as well. As always, outstanding job by Caitlin Schmidt, our producer, and the entire teams in Atlanta and New York. That's a wrap for this edition. We'll be back next Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern for the final week of the regular season, if you can believe it or not, in men's college basketball. Thanks for watching.